Why don't we, the culture, have that knowledge? Why don't we seek to do more than spend our money?
Mhm. And I think one of the things that you said, Tawana, is that we oftentimes don't recognize how deeply embedded these colloquialisms, these way of beings, the things that have been generationally passed down, because we have been intentionally oppressed as a people, right? Financial literacy has not been something that has been pushed. And that's resulting in mathematics not being something that is pushed, right? In urban environments, math and science, these are things that we have truly excelled at in the past when it didn't have a label on it. But now that it has a label, it's like, oh, well, we must keep them away from these things, because when we understand that they truly can dive into understand how finances work in America, right? In this kind of environment, because this is not the only financial system that there is, but once we subscribe to this particular financial system, then there have been plenty of things to block and stop us. So thank you so much for that. And Monica, I'm going to come over to you with that same question. What has been an event or an occurrence or something that has transpired in your life where you have recognized that it was kept secret or it was a secret to you, and when you uncovered that secret, you were in a space and saying to yourself, I need to go and seek out this wisdom from someone who looks like me, or it would be nice if I could find another Black woman to kind of sit at her feet.
I love that. And gosh, I love what everyone shared. And I think as we talk later, one of the books I'm just launching is The ABCs of Racism and Reconciliation. And one of the things for me through all of this is the church. I really wish the church had been more realistic for me through divorce, through breast cancer, through younger. I feel like the church, which has been a foundation of us for so long, has really not told us the truth. I feel like it's become more religious than real relationship. And I think if we had developed more relationship and been taught more of that in the church, then we could have better relationships even outside, whether you believe in Christian. So for me, I remember after my father died in 2017, he was actually at a facility in Maryland, so I'm still battling that. Like, you put it this way, you have to do it this way. And I was like, this is my father's last the last thing I'll get to do to honor him. So let me just honor him the way God is telling me to honor him, not the way your church or religion is saying I have to. So I feel like for me, years ago, now I have an amazing tribe where I call and say, look, I don't want to read the Bible today. I don't even want to pray. I just need you to hear me where I am at. But when I was younger, no one talked to me really about my mom, even, walking with God. They didn't really say, hey, people in the church might hurt you just because they're in the church, they may not have it all together. I think there's a false sense of what we get in the church. And the other thing is being able to understand that we are the church outside of the four walls. I think we do so much in the four walls because it's been safety for us. Back in slavery, we came together, and Sunday morning is still the most segregated place in some ways in this country. So for me, I would have to say my faith. I could say financially also. I love what everyone else has shared, but the church and religion and faith, I wish someone had talked to me more about relationship than religion as I even now go through things. So that would be one of the things.
Thank you so much for that. And that's really what this discussion is all about, creating and building those relationships with one another, because that becomes the platform and the foundation for everything that we do and growth. And if you are just joining us right now, we are in a very powerful discussion around Black Woman Confidential, Secrets of a Black Woman on the Rise. We are here at the Black CEO Iconic National Convention, and we have brought some amazing women together to have this very personal and intimate conversation, because all too often what we recognize as Black women is that our voices are silenced for so long and we hold so much in. When you think about just even the masculine versus the feminine energy, femininity is all about being that receptacle. It's about the holding and the nurturing and the growing of things. And a lot of times what happens is that the growth happens in the dark, right? When you think about a seed, it's planted in the ground and we don't know what's happening down there. We don't see all of the chaos and the confusion and the busting out and everything. All we see is the seedling come up and we're like, yay, right? And sometimes that's what it feels like for Black women. No one ever really pays attention to all of the chaos. All they see is, did the dinner get put on the table? Did the kids get off to school? Did you make it to work with some semblance of your hair done and everything? And not everything that it took in order to get there. And I was reading a post from a girlfriend of mine, Dr. Toni Moore. She is a brilliant attorney. And she had a post that she put on Facebook, and she said when she first went into a law firm, she would notice that the white male partners would nurture and mentor other white men. And the white female attorneys, partners, would nurture other white women. And she got criticized for, not doing her part. And she began to speak up and voice her opinion and say, hey, where's my mentorship? Who is it that I look for? And one of the partners at the firm told her that you can read and you can write, figure it out, right? And that has been the story. And so what happened as a Black woman, she did just that. She went within. She went to school some more. She, studied some more, and she became the smartest person inside of that firm. She became the smartest person inside of the courtroom. But what happens when that gets tired, right? When the weight of that becomes too much for individuals to bear. And so I'm going to go over to you, Elizabeth Hope Brown. And I know that you are an author. And I really love the title of your book, and on the seventh day, she rested, right? And I love that because that's true for me. Like I work like a Hebrew slave 6 days out of the week. And on the seventh day, it's like, no, don't talk to me. I turn off all electronic devices. Everyone inside of my company knows you can't reach Spalding. Don't talk to her from sun up to sundown, right? But that was something that had to be taught to me. It was something that was really literally mentored into me because I didn't do that. I thought I had to be a machine and a workhorse over and over and over and over and over again until I burnt out. And there were some things that, happened in the life after the miscarriage, and I'm laid up and I'm like, nobody came to see me. Like all the stuff that I do for everybody else, and and I'm laid up here. People were like, life goes on, and I was like, whoa, light bulb moment, light bulb moment. And I had to reach out to some women who were not part of my community, but I had to pull them in to create a community that supported me in that way. So Elizabeth, I'd like for you to kind of talk about some of the things that may have happened and who you see yourself as being, right? That woman who mentors another individual. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I'm about to explode. I wish I would have went first because you all have spoke some things that I could have just been piggybacking on. Like, yes. I think you just did the She Rest journey in a nutshell. Some people took it like blasphemy, like She Rest. And I'm like, no, because if you know, like E.R. Spalding just described, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've been that person avoiding burnout, you've been that machine trying to do all things to all people. And then when it's your turn to need that, it's not there, So I created 6 characters trying to be realistic or fictional, create characters that were very practical that everyone on this Zoom call and that's watching could relate to. And it was difficult because I had like a Moby Dick in mind, because I could go so many places as a mom, as a director now, as a social worker, as a wife. I got married at 22 to a preacher who became a pastor. He decided 5 years ago this wasn't a good match. And so the last 5 years, the book finally launched. It was something 30 plus years ago I thought to do, but I made sure to give that preacher wife, Monica, a voice. I made sure, Trioko, to give that woman who was in that environment, who didn't feel understood. I was remiss. I live now in Georgia, where I was born and left when I was 3, grew up in Sacramento, California, been in 29 different states and out the country 10 times. So I've been around a lot of people who misunderstand me, my passion, my energy, my intentions, my motive, So I think it was you, Tiran, we're talking about finances and money. I went to college at a Black HBCU, which I loved the experience that I could not afford. And I wish someone would have told me about the difference between public school and private school, the difference about living on campus and living off campus. Mine have gotten through debt free, and there's a way to do it. And you don't have to be poor. You don't have to be in the projects. You don't have to necessarily be low income. You keep your grades up. You keep good character. You volunteer. There's a way to do everything. But as a director, when I got divorced, I found myself in a situation. I went back to work full time. I had been doing all the things I'm doing now for free as a pastor's wife in the church. And so when God blessed me to do my job that I do now, I'm like, I can get paid for this to still build healthy families, to still encourage other people, to still speak life and say, sis, it's okay to not be okay sometimes. You can't be all things to all people. I had to give myself permission to turn my phone off and get some rest. They will be okay. What they don't figure out when you are down, they really will be okay. So my life experience, my professional experience, it was not by accident. I've cried those tears at night. I've cried those tears in the car trying to figure out what to do and feeling like I had no one to turn to. I was interviewed for jobs for 2 hours that I was more than qualified for, and they were looking for reasons not to give it to me only because of what I look like. Because on my paper, I think Miami said on paper I look great, but when I walked in the room, they were surprised by what they saw. And then I was told, I want to give you this job, but I want you to accept it without reservation, because there will be some people who are not used to being told no by somebody like you. And I'm raised in California. I'm like you. I'm like, what do you mean somebody like me? Now I'm in a rural community in Georgia. What, someone beautiful, someone Black, someone intelligent? Like, what's the problem? But I had to learn that coming in the Southeast, that, I'm like, you try to go, I hug everybody. I talk to everybody. My mom and grandma, we don't meet no strangers. And then I come in the room, like, I've been told, Elizabeth, sometimes you have to dummy it down. I'm like, why I got to dummy it down? Ain't nobody else dummy it down. But then I have staff, like my daughter, I brought her in for, she was 14 when I started my publishing company. And for her, she says, Mom, sometimes I listen in on you guys on the panel and she doesn't relate. Because of my strife, my mother's strife, the strife before her, we've done so much to shelter her and set the path. So certain things that we went through, she didn't have to go through. As a pastor's wife, very prolific, gifted. My ex-husband started pastoring at 19. I was teaching Sunday school to women at 25 who were 50 plus years old, still hurting about things that happened to them when they were 10 and 15. So I was in that position to where I had to be a mentor to women who were twice my age. And now I'm in a position as a mother of young adults to be a mentor to people at a generation before me who I learned from. Because like you said, Jackson, they smart, they innovative, they got it, they bold, they feel entitled, but they don't have that wisdom. They don't have that grace sometimes. They don't have that humbleness. So we need, like Angela said, all those generations coming together, sharing our gifts, being heard, and then listening. I've listened to you all. I'm like, yes, sis, we are on it. We are piggybacking. We are collaborating. I'm so grateful for this opportunity because it's still much needed. Unfortunately, after all the strides that we have accomplished, it is still, I found myself in the pandemic feeling lonely. Couldn't go out. I'm a social worker. I'm used to doing health fairs, being a vendor, being in the community. I'm used to being on public stage. Now I'm home, idle. And it was good though, because sometimes we have to get into our own self. We have to take ownership. We have to learn to love ourselves and be at peace with being by ourselves. But then those voices still need to be heard. So I saw this like at 4:00 in the morning and was like, this is me. I need to be a part of this iconic moment. I need to embrace these women that are on here. And I hope they embrace me just the same, because we still need one another. Very much so, especially for a time such as this.
Mm-hmm. What is that saying? People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. And I think now more than ever, we are really recognizing that. I was reading an article probably maybe about 2.5, 3 years now. But it was talking about women in general, and then it started moving into Black women, how important it is for us to date one another as women. And so right now we're missing out on that, those girlfriend moments. Now I grew up family of 5, so not as large as the family of 10 out of 10, and 7 out of 9, right? But I come from a family of 5, so it's 3 girls and 2 boys. But I remember those moments in the kitchen Saturday night, right? Sitting between mama's legs, and you got one daughter over there and she's whipping up the cornbread. Mama's got the hot comb and she get in the kitchen all together, right? But we carry these rituals into our adult lives when we really don't recognize it. And so the kitchen being the heartbeat, right? So when my sisters and I get together, it's like we're, exchanging, we're dating one another, but we're just standing around in the kitchen, right? What you cooking? What you got going on? But it's having those meaningful moments. And then also unknowingly, right, when you're with family, passing down the history and the traditions, because I have a sister who's 7 years older than I am. So there was a generational gap. I'm 7, she's 14. She's like, mama's like, well, you can go, but you got to take your baby sister. And she's like, what? So I had to, be thrust forward and grow up really quickly, because she like, you better not embarrass me, right, when we go out. But having those moments. So Miami, I'm going to come over to you and ask you the same thing that I really talked with Elizabeth about in terms of creating those moments where you get to be that voice for someone else, that mentor, that wisdom gate, and passing that around. So what has been your experience with being the essence of Black Woman Confidential?
Thank you so much for this. Um, Along my journey, I had a lot of trauma. So back in 2011, my son Tyke was shot in an incident that also claimed the life of his best friend. Well, Tyke, miraculously, he survived. He lived with a traumatic brain injury, PTSD, anxiety, depression, you name it. And he also, of course, had a lot of thoughts of ideation and suicidal, thoughts and things that he just couldn't understand and wrap his brain around. He was also the key witness to the trial of his attempted murder. Well, 5 years after that, Tyke shot and killed himself. So just breathe for a second after someone says that. I have had to now learn to take time and to take and engulf myself in the space where I'm at. When I'm having to share that story, when I'm having to tell people, I've had this traumatic experience, and now I'm a part of a network of women that also have lost their children as well. I'm a part of Moms Demand Action and also Everytown for Gun Safety. And I work with those women that have truly kind of the same stories that I do. They have lost their children tragically to gun violence. And I'm able to be a mentor to them because along my journey, I also took the route to spiritual healing. I am an author as well, and I wrote The Key Process, a grief guide to mastering spiritual healing. And what that consists of, out of that, I pulled out these 7 keys of how I began to heal. And that was through meditation. That was by me changing my diet because, of course, food how much food that we intake and the toxins that are in our body, it's hard for us to process things. So with that, I learned mindfulness and I started exercising. And then I tapped into the world of Reiki and energy healing. And after that, I went through this whole process of needing to understand what ancestral healing was. And when I started doing all this work, I started defining my purpose. I was nowhere on the trail of becoming a grief coach, a certified grief specialist, and now a grief counselor. Nowhere I was nowhere near that realm. I was actually a certified home stager at the time, and had been an event planner for many of years. I was not looking for this line of work that I'm in now, but it found me. And so I had to learn to embrace that. And as I learned to embrace that, I got into this network of beautiful women that knows the struggles that I am having, and they also know how to relate to me. They actually allow me to say, if they ask me, how are you doing? They pause and they allow for me to answer. Because, a lot of times when we ask people, say, hey, oh, how you doing? And then you come with the next thing to say. But they really allow me. And what I've learned with being a part of this network of women, I've also learned how to move and shake through when I'm going through my own stages. Just because I am a grief educator and trainer doesn't mean that I don't have my days. I miss this boy over here. I miss him dearly. But yet, through this process and having women that I can support, it has helped challenge me. It has helped wake me up in the morning. It's helped me get up throughout the days and say, hey, you know what? I can do this. I can do this by God's grace. And I can do this because God has equipped me for this time. There's no way in the world I would have chosen, oh, I want to be a grief coach. But what I have learned over the time and through the education, that there's a need for this work. Because like I said, when I first came on, a lot of times we think that, we have it all together, but yet there are so many things that are unresolved, from childhood trauma to, just the things that we just don't want to deal with. If it's a relationship or a loss that we have, it could be a loss of a pet. But a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to heal that. We sweep it up under the rug, and then it's going to come out in a meeting or with a conversation with our spouses, or a conversation with a girlfriend. But if we allow ourselves time to heal, and to even discover and acknowledge what it is and accept what it is, and then allow ourselves to go through a healing process to free it, feel it, and face it, then we'll be okay. So that's why I'm here. And I'm so grateful that I have a network of women that I can, like I said, pull from as well, and also mentor to them to show them that, grieving is nothing wrong with that. It's something that we have to do. Our body has to do it. Our body has to release that energy, and we need to learn other ways of how to heal through the process.
Thank you so much, Miami Night, for that. I think you said free it, feel it, face it. Right? That 3F methodology: free it, release it, face it, look at it, make sure that it's standing right there, and then feel it, which is what we don't oftentimes give ourselves permission to do, because we have been living in someone else's persona that we have to be on all the time, every single hour of the day. I mean, I'm just looking at the time right now, and it has flown by. Like, where did it go? We could be here another 5 hours, right? Having this conversation. And certainly we want to be here with you. But as we continue to go through the conference, make sure that you get over to freebizgifts.com, connect with these ladies. All of their social media information will be there, because you may find your sister circle with one of them. Hopefully, in this conversation, the ladies will stay connected here, because I just see some phenomenal things coming as a result of it. Black Woman Confidential has been something that has been near and dear to me for a very long time. And we are actually having Black Woman Startup, that is, we are having our conference next month. And the theme of that is Black Woman Confidential. So we are urging everyone to become a part of that, register. It is a no-cost event, but it will be talking about the secrets of Black women on the rise in business, in life, in love, in leadership, in all of the places that we find ourselves. One of the things that I am a big proponent of and for is that all of the different hats that we wear, that we begin to integrate them all together. Right? Because what would happen as Black women is that we would find ourselves, and I know for me personally, if you would ask 7 different people if they knew E.R. Spalding, they would give you 7 different personas of who she was, depending upon if I was in a work environment, if I was hanging out with my girlfriends, if I was over here with my husband or the children, or in the spiritual space, right? All of these decompartmentalized things. And really what I learned is that the best version of who I am shone through when I was able to integrate all of those together and allow individuals to see the complete me, the authentic me, the, you know, the graceful and the gritty, right? The grand and the not so grand. And so if I were to leave you with the number one secret, it would actually be a quote that I hold dear to me. And it's a quote by Richard Bach. And it is, you teach best what you most need to learn. You teach best what you most need to learn. That has certainly been the case for me. And so, as an entrepreneur, I find myself teaching and training and being in spaces for the things that I need to learn the most and continue to grow and deepen. And that is the relational wealth between women, that is the empowerment of the woman's voice, and that is the strength that we find when we go within and then create the courage to go out there and explore it with other individuals. And so, as we begin to wrap up tonight, we are going to go around and ask each one of our esteemed panelists here what is the number one secret that they would like to leave with you as sisters on the rise. So I am going to start with you, Monica, and then we'll continue to go around.
Wow, thank you, man. Everything that everyone shared tonight is just, I can't wait to be connecting with these women long after this conference. I want to piggyback on one of the things you said because I agree. We're not supposed to be siloed. We were not created to be siloed. There are narratives and things that have forced us to be siloed, whether we're in the room, outside of the room. So just this healing, and we've all talked about, my healing, the loss of a child, loss of a marriage, but just the healing in our community. If we don't begin to come together and bring our strengths together instead of always tearing us down for our weaknesses, our healing is not going to be what we need it to be. So I just really, the healing, it takes all of us, not just the village, but it takes all of us to embrace the healing to become the communities we need to become forward. So that's what I would leave with each of us right now.
So I would sum that up as your number one secret is being heal ourselves, and we'll find that we heal the world.
Yes.
Right? All right, Elizabeth Hope Brown, what is your number one secret?
My number one secret I learned was I was created on purpose and with purpose. There's nothing new under the sun. And as I've gone through things and learned to express about the things that I've gone through and found my voice, I'm very sociable, but people can misinterpret that you could be an extrovert and introvert at the same time because I'm very clear on what I'm saying when I'm talking to people. And I tell you what I want you to know. But it's okay to not be okay sometimes, but it's always okay to be you. And I learned after years of life and trying to blend and trying to modify myself to comfort others is that I am who I am on purpose. And what is that purpose? I had to figure out and then walk boldly in it, regardless if I was walking with a multitude or walking by myself. So that's my one thing is you are you on purpose. And for whatever reason that you've gone through, what you've gone through is for a reason and a purpose. And then walk in it. Walk in it boldly and without apology, because no one else in the world can be you, like no one else in the world could be me. So the purpose, being me, being uniquely created, without apology is what I encourage people on the She Rest journey and in life. I'm like you, Spalding. I had to blend all those characters and personalities together. And when you know me, I may be in a different mood, but the core me is always the same. No secret about where I stand. So.
Absolutely. On purpose and walking with your purpose. Great. Troika, what is your number one secret?
My number one secret is it starts and ends with me. I mean, everything that I was looking for, everything that I was afraid of losing, I found in me. Everything that I thought had been taken away from me, I already had. Everything that I started using things that people use to bully me. My mom had to tell me I was being bullied, number one. They're trying to bully you, girl. I was like, you know what? I like me. And I had to learn, I learned to trust me. And I love the idea of of finding other sisters, you know, when you found other sisters who've done the same thing, because then they're not intimidated by you being that way. If you know who you are, and if you love you, they're not intimidated by you being that way, and you'll know it because you can feel it. It feels this panel. I am normally nervous because I've been the only penny in the change person most of the time, and when I do have to come with, with my sisters, I'm usually nervous. I'm like, am I too much? Do I need to dumb down? Do I need to? But I had a sister tell me one time. She said, you need to make your own mantra. So y'all can quote me on this if you want to, but my mantra is I used to dumb down my shine, thinking it was kind. They either catch up or they get left behind. That's all I got to say.
It begins and ends with Troika. All right. Mcneil, what is your number one secret?
I would say decide. Having the opportunity to simply decide, making a decision. When after losing my son, and it was a year after, I decided that I wasn't going to live that way anymore because I couldn't if I was going to continue doing what I was doing. So by me simply making a decision to do something differently, that's what changed my outcome to be a better woman, showing up in the world differently. And it also helped me to understand what grief and healing was. I understood what grief, I started learning what grief was, but I didn't understand what healing meant behind the grief. And in doing that, that helped me to awaken my spiritual self. But I had to start by simply deciding.
So all you Black CEOs out there, make a decision, right? No waddling the fence there. Thank you so much, Mcneil. Tawana Taylor, what is your number one secret? I think we can't hear you, Tawana. Let me just check your mic real quick. Do a mic check.
Mic check.
Yes, we can hear you now. Beautiful.
All right, thank you. Yes, I was just telling Mcneil, she's speaking my language. You gotta be willing to make a decision, right? And so with that, it's like woman, sister, whatever you want to put in front of it, choose to be well. Don't wait for the situation to get better. Be better in the situation, right? Love yourself, know yourself, appreciate yourself. And from the business standpoint, we're all here, right? We're women in business. And it goes to the space of you already have everything you need inside of you to go forward. You don't have to have it all figured out. That's where you collaborate, right? Like ER is talking about the one and one together. You don't have to do it all. Integrate so that you can show up and choose to be well.
Choose to be well. All right, Dr. Angela Clack, your number one secret.
My number one secret is to know your worth, to know your value. As Black women, we have been beaten down, beaten through things. We have lost. It is our time to reclaim what was lost and what was stolen from us. And so ask for what you're worth. That's one of the things that I know. So that quote resonates with me. Teach in the areas that you need to work on, because for the longest time, I had a difficult time charging what I'm worth. Because why? Because I felt guilty about asking for your coins. Well, why not? I'm earning it. So know your value, know what you bring to the table, and charge and ask for what you're worth. Do not compromise. Reclaim what is lost and stolen. And my mantra has been, I believe as women who will heal the world, but we must first heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Charge your worth and heal yourself. I am going to give you, I would say a twofer, but in this instance, 1 and 1 is an 11. So we're going to give you an 11th hour, right? I'm going to add one more secret to the mix. And this is for all of my Black women CEOs, all of my Black women startups, and for my men Black CEOs. I am does not mean you are not. I am does not mean you are not. So in this space, we have the ability to constantly lift one another up, to collaborate with one another, and to allow other individuals to shine, because I am does not mean you are not. Thank you so much for being here with us in this iconic discussion about Black Woman Confidential, Secrets of Black Women on the Rise. We truly hope that you are continuing to be here and are enjoying this national conference with BlackCEO. And we also hope to see you at Black Woman Startups, Black Woman Confidential, that'll literally be 1 month after this, March 22nd through the 27th. So with that, we will say bye-bye, auf Wiedersehen, shalom, whichever language, but this will not be the end. And we're gonna do this in true BlackCEO fashion. So anytime we come together and we get ready to leave the room, we do a countdown from 11 and we count backwards. And then everybody with a thunderclap shouts out their first name, where they're from, and the name of their business, and they say BlackCEO out. So ladies, are you ready? Are you with me? Everybody come off mute because we are getting ready to have the countdown. And if you are in the digital audience, make sure that you are typing it in the feed, and we're gonna count down at 11. So I'm giving you a little time to type in your name, to type in your city and state, where you're from, and to type in the name of your business, because guess what? This is broadcast all around the world, and there are so many people who can connect with you. So here we go, ladies, and we're gonna do this countdown together. We're ready, starting at 11. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are
Miami,
Atlanta,
Miami,
Atlanta, Georgia.
California,
BlackCEO out.
All right,
BlackCEO.
Oh, BlackCEO out.
BlackCEO out.
BlackCEO out.
Once again, my friends, my name is Robert Antoinin, and you are listening live to BlackCEO's premier event for 2021, Black and Iconic. And this is day 4 of our Authors and Speakers Showcase. And I don't know about you, but I am so excited to hear from fellow speakers and authors who are going to help you to elevate your business and your brand with their tips and their strategies and the experiences that they've already gone through that can help you to get over those hurdles and to overcome some of the fears that you may have in your speaking and or your writing journey. But right now, let me talk to all of the speakers out there. I want to share something with you that Andy Enriquez shared with me maybe 3 years ago when I came off stage, and he sat down with me and he said really succinctly, "Hey Rob, when you go on stage, the next time you get up on stage, whether you're virtual or you're on a stage, on a platform, make sure that you are able to do 3 things in a very efficient manner to have the impact that you want to have for your listener and your audience." He said that you need to be able to answer who you are to your audience, what you have, and why should I care. Who you are very quickly lets the audience know how you connect to them, how you relate to their pain points, right? So you need to be very, very clear about explaining who you are. And who you are doesn't necessarily mean that you take 20 minutes to give all of your accolades and all of the degrees that you have on your resume. Be very, very clear about who you are by connecting and relating to your audience. The second thing, tell them what you have. And then that what you have portion, tell them what problems you solve as a result of them listening to you. Tell them what is it that you can help them to get better at. What question can you answer in their business and in their personal situation? So in what you have, you want to answer those questions. And then, why should I care? That's where the magic happens. You need to be able to explain what is the transformation that you can provide as a result of listening to your message. If it happens to do with wealth, if it's with weight loss, whatever it is, what is the transformation that you can provide as a result of listening to you and your presentation? So if you're a speaker, if you're struggling with how to present your idea, make sure that you keep those 3 questions in mind. Who you are, what you have, and why should I care? And if you can do those 3 things, you are well on your way to being a $1 million speaker. I'll get to the authors on the other side when we get back from the next part, but my name is Robert Antoinin, and I approve this message. Peace.
Welcome to Strawberry Letter 55. I'm so happy you can join me. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with the presentation, and we will be on our way. Yay, Strawberry Letter 55. And I'm Renee Johnson, CEO and President of the Asher brand. Additional, who am I? I want you to just take a look at that picture there. That was a picture of me during my 55th birthday photo shoot, which was last year, May 22nd, 2020. So excited. Got the crown in my hand, palm of my hand, and that's who we are. We are queens, and we have to know that we are of royal priesthood. So we're royalty. And that was something that, as we go through this workshop, you'll hear more and more of the different things of where I was and now where I am today. So again, Renee Johnson, I go after life pursuits like my life depends on it, because it does. As I mentioned in my presentation, I set out with the motivation to be taken off my blood pressure medication, and I achieved that goal within 3 weeks. I had a fear of public speaking, like, shaking in my bones, but I set a course to challenge myself and achieve my goal in 30 days. I was always unsure of myself, second guessing and questioning every decision and choice of words that I selected, until one day I found out that people just want to hear from your heart. So if you speak from the heart, it's going to reach the heart. Don't worry about anything else. And just like with anything, it spills over into all parts of your life. Once you become confident and you overcome different insecurities, you're reaching those life pursuits. Now you know you can do anything. You're on top of the world. So later in the year of 2019, I was able to earn $30,000 within 3 days, because I was always fearful of rejection, of people saying no. And I just got it in my mind, you know what, I'm going to reach out to every client for the year of 2019 that said they wanted to do something with me, but for whatever reason, we didn't get the business closed. So I went out, called everybody, bam, made the 30,000 in 3 days. So why are you here? You are here because of goals and dreams that you also have from the presentation. You are, maybe wondering, is it too late for you to achieve, anything more because of things that have happened to you? You might be an empty nester. You might be someone who's lost a spouse or parent. You were downsized from a job. You're going through what they call the midlife crisis. I like to call it the midlife evaluation. So you're wondering what is next. How this workshop can help you. This workshop will help you recognize that while you are still here, there are dreams that are still possible. I believe dreams do come true. After leaving today, you will be well on your way to putting in place a process to help you reach your goals, your dream, and I like to call them my life pursuits. In this limited time together, I want to go over as much as possible. I promise to give you more information on how, we can take it further if you choose to. I have a comprehensive program where I teach you how to reach your life pursuits. It's natural to long for things, especially those things that we feel that will make us better, because our assignment here is really for others. Yeah, we get the satisfaction of it as well, but we're here for others because we have to make encounters. When we encounter people, we have to make that exchange to where we're making that person better than when they came into our present. So I know when we're out there, for me, sometimes you try things, you try it once, you try it twice, and you say, oh, and you fail both times, you don't achieve the desired results. And then you feel like, oh, it's not for me. And then you give up because you think, oh, well, it's not for me. God is, that's not what God wants. But sometimes all you're missing is a good plan, a blueprint, if you will, because God, he gives us so much, and then he wants us to work it as well. So our belief system plays a big part. We're impacted daily from things that was filtered into us when we were children, things that we have processed internally from our environments. All those things make up who we are, and sometimes they could be preventing us or impeding us from soaring and doing all those great things that we should be doing. So we have to go through and kind of analyze and process all of that. So this 6-step process is going to help you. And there is a 7th part to it, and I'll go over that at the end. But if you follow this, you will be able to achieve those life pursuits just like I was able to. So we have 6 components of a letter. That's all it is. Very simple. When you write a letter, I know when you were younger, when writing letters were in, as far as communication, now we got the cell phones, we got the digital email, but letters were so special, so personable. And I remember young, before I, got married, met my husband, I had a boyfriend that was in another state, and when letters would come, you get so excited. And so that's what this letter is. It's going to be something so important, and that we would cherish it, greatly. So 6 components: the date, the address, the salutation, the body, the closing, and the signature. None of those terms are unfamiliar to us, right? So on today, 4 things on this agenda today. We're going to spend time identifying life pursuits, defining the letter components 1 through 3, which is your date, address, and salutation. Assessing your environments, both inner and outer, that's the component 4, that's the body. Strategizing and creating the blueprint, that's the component 5, which is your closing. And then committing to the plan, which is component 6. What's next? So important, the $1 million question. Identify 1 or 2 to 3 things that you feel are of importance to you. We're going to give you 2 minutes. I see, it's 3 to 5, but for the sake of time, I want to make sure we have enough time at the end. I want you to be thinking about, in your workbook, there's a spot for you to write down those life pursuits. An example for me was to conquer the fear of public speaking. So that's 1. To get off my blood pressure medication. That's 2, and to reach my sale goals, my quota for the year of 2019. I want these goals to be those, and I even need to, stop myself, these life pursuits to be short term, things that we can accomplish maybe within 12 months. I think going out for 2 years, 24 months, you can stretch it, but I want us to look at these in short term, because what I believe, when we put those big audacious, those hairy audacious goals out there for a long period of time, it's going to be more difficult to reach, and then sometimes we're going to get discouraged. So if we get those small victories in, those are going to allow us to, push us to the next, because we're gonna feel good about those small victories, and then they're gonna turn into bigger, like the snowball effect. So let's look at things. I had one as short of a period as 30 days. Maybe it's 30 days, but go ahead and take the time, give you 2 minutes, so you can write out in the workbook those life pursuits that you want to pursue over the next 12 months. Okay? Maybe you want to write a book and you want to give yourself 9 months. 9 months is a very important amount of time frame. I think of a baby. It takes 9 months for a baby to develop and to be born. And so this is now that period of birthing, then you'll be into the laboring, and then the baby is born. So could be something that's out for 9 months. But I guarantee you have something that you can work on that's going to help you become better, and then also helping others. If it wasn't for me in those 30 days of going Facebook Live, I went live, Facebook Live for 30 days straight for a half an hour every day, just talking about different subjects for 30 days. And at the end, I was now no longer fearful of talking publicly in front of people. So, and I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done that. Okay, 1 more minute. All right. So the date, we go to the date of this letter, and that's where we have all corresponding supporting verses that I wanted to go with each component. The date is Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision and make it plain. When we put a date on something, that is marking its place in time. So that's what we're doing with our life pursuits. We're going to make sure that that date is noted. It's a special date to us, because what do we do with dates? We celebrate them, anniversary, birthdays, when we graduated from high school. We know that date. My husband, I was talking with him the other day, and I was sharing with him, I know the dates of when I worked at different companies, and I've only worked at 3, but I knew the dates that my whole career, I knew the dates that I worked and the day that I left. And he was like, who remembers that? It wasn't just the year and the month, it was the actual date, because that was important. Because every time I left my place of employment, it was always voluntarily. I left and I moved on to a better position. So elevation, whenever there's an elevation, you remember those dates. So I think of Stephen Covey and his 7 habits of highly effective people, where he says, begin with the end in mind. So I kid you not, before he wrote that book, I believe he wrote that book in early 2000. This was already part of what I did before. When I graduated from college in 1987, that was probably the first that I remember where that's all I was thinking of when I was going to graduate in 1987. And so I just started seeing that date and I started working towards it. And so that's what this date is. And what I want you to do is put that date down for your what's next. When you wrote out your life pursuits, I now want you to give it a date. And I want you to put the date in the slot of this letter. That is your date that you're going to work towards for your life pursuits. All right. The address in the supporting verse is Exodus, the 3rd chapter, the 14th verse, where God told Moses, I am that I am. He said, tell the Israelites that. That's who he is. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to tell yourself who you are, who you will become in that time frame. You're going to write it out. You're going to walk in that identity. You're going to know who you are. So if you were writing a book, if that's your life pursuit, to write a book, you gave yourself a date, you're now an author. You're now an author, and maybe you can go a step further and say you are a best-selling author, but that's where you're going to address what you are. For me, my address was, I am in a healthy place. I was going to make sure that the things that were happening to my family, of course, I cannot say that it won't happen, but at least I'm making efforts and taking precautions to somewhat lessen that probability of me having to be ill and being taken care of in my latter years, and that I even will make it, to my latter years. So I'm in a healthy place. It could be a physical address. Maybe you're planning to relocate somewhere, the East Coast, the West Coast, the South, and that's your physical address of where you're going to be. It could be a state of being. You just divorced and you're moving past that and you want to be in a place of peace. I'm in a state of peace, happiness. Any of those state of being, you can note that as well. Your salutation, the supporting verse, Romans 4:17, calling those things which are not as though they were, as well as Hebrew 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I will say that I believe no sickness will come to me that will be unto death. I will say that. The acknowledgement of the arrival of that thing, faith. I see the vision. You must believe and greet that thing daily. You will speak it. Hello. If you're going to be in a place of peace, hello, peace. You're going to say it. You're going to speak it. I love some supporting verses as well that I love to quote, because every thing that you're dealing with, going through, there's a supporting verse in the Bible that you can use to speak it. If you're dealing with sickness, if you're dealing with grief, if you're going through sadness, everything, there's a verse. If you're weary because you feel like you're working and things are not coming the way that you want it to come into fruition, is not manifesting, there's verses that you can call and pull on. God said he will never forsake us. So if we're feeling like we're lonely, we can call out that verse. So we can call out, I can do all things, Philippians, through Christ who gives me strength, Philippians 13:3. Now this is again verses that I have selected. You can select those verses as well. One of my favorites all time, John 10:10. God said that he's come that we may have life and have life more abundantly. That verse just means so much to me because that abundance is here on earth. And that abundance is not money, it's not always monetary. It's more too of mental. I can have an abundance peace. Peace is everything to me. Peace, and I know most people, as they get older and older, how much they value their peace more than anything. So I make sure that is protected, my peace. So God wants us to have those things. And if we speak it and we say it, those things will come to pass. The body. So the body of the letter, we know when we're writing, that is that's the meat of the letter, right? Sometimes you're going to go to that body before you're looking at anything else, what day it was written, who it's addressed to. You go right to the body. So the body is where we find, of course, our mind. And so it's the shell of those things. It's the protector. And again, this is the weight of the letter. And what I want you to do is the verse for that. I'm sorry, I wanted to read the verse first, but Romans 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of what God has given us. We're in control. We're in control of our mind, our body, and our soul. So we want to make sure that it's pleasing to God, that we're doing everything to make sure that we're offering it, our bodies, as a living sacrifice. And we know that we are to transform our mind so that what we're doing is going to be acceptable and it is the will of God. So there's a constant work in this section, a constant work. And so we wonder why a lot of things don't get done because we jump ahead. Now, I know the body is in a letter, it comes, it's in that fourth component, but we have to go ahead and set those things up. And then once we get to the body, we make sure that it is in line with what God wants for our life. Because this is where we're doing a lot of evaluation. We're doing self-awareness in the body. All right. So our mind, the mind, this is where the transformation takes place. We got to work on making our mind stronger, and we have to make sure that we become stronger. So right now we're going to go right into number 1, which is practice labeling your emotions. You want to make sure that you put a name on those emotions, because we're all going through different emotions and we have to identify and put a name on them. It could be you're feeling sad, you're feeling angry, you're scared. You have to acknowledge them. Having a self-awareness of those emotions keeps you from making irrational decisions, even getting yourself into those predicaments that are not going to be conducive to you. So number 2, establish healthy ways to deal with uncomfortable emotion. We have to learn how to cope with our emotions. I wish when I was younger that I understood how all that worked. Sometimes I remember, I would get angry and, sometimes do things, say things that I really wouldn't want to or wouldn't have ordinarily said, but because I was acting out on the emotions. And so also when we don't label and deal with them, we can, in a healthy way, we can do things that are counterproductive. So you think of retail therapy. A lot of people feel like, oh, even girlfriends will call me up, I need to go do some retail therapy. But then we go out and we're buying things we don't really need. We're also buying things that could put us in some type of financial situation. We're charging things, racking up credit cards. So we got to make sure that we establish healthy ways. And so some healthy things we can do is, how about start a project? You can buy some type of board with some markers, crayons, and, and start creating, start drawing. You can go and read a book, get a book that is going to, yes, it's going to cost you something, but at the same time, it's going to help you and develop you. You can start a garden. All those things are healthy ways of dealing with those emotions. Number 3, you want to identify and replace unhealthy thought patterns. You probably heard of that stinking thinking, right? You want to make sure that you get rid of that stinking thinking. You want to do away with self-fulfilling prophecy, saying things that you want that will happen, and they will happen. I remember when I would get up to go and speak at an engagement or something, I had to speak, and I would always think in my mind, oh, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something wrong. And then it happens. But if I would to get up and say, I'm going to crush this presentation, I'm going to leave these people speechless, then those things will happen. So I have to start changing the way that I think. And then number 4 is take positive action. So now I'm saying it, now I need to do it. You heard of, a person that's walking the talk. That's what we want to do. We want to change our behavior. We want to even, sometimes taking positive action is doing away with something that we were doing. And sometimes we might want to, if there's certain places we go and we know we're picking up some negative energy, we want to divert. We want to go in a total different direction. So sometimes we may have to change our environments to change our actions into positive actions. And then 5, we want to give up the bad habits that rob us of our mental muscles. So we want to make sure that we are going places and doing things that don't put us in places where it's depleting us, because we will end up not in a good place, not being able to operate and not being able to function because we're letting things break us down versus build us up. So that is your mind. So important in setting your life pursuits and meeting them, because if we don't have a transformational mind of changing the way we used to do things, we're going to find ourselves back in those same patterns, doing the same thing. So we know what insanity is, doing the same thing, expecting different results. So we have to make a transformation of our mind. So our body is that body, yada, yada thing. And for me, it's, we're talking about the physical body. We know that without the body functioning the way it's supposed to, that it's impossible for us to be able to get things done in the way that we should. So what do we need to do to make sure we keep our body in order? We need to feed it. We need to feed it the right way. Feed it, give it what it needs, the nutrition, the vitamins. We have to make sure we're eating healthy. We have our fruits and vegetables, certain things you have to stay away from. One thing that I took out of my diet was milk. And I used to love milk. I love milk. I would have milk, with my cookies, and that's another thing I had to give up. I would do cereal, my milk. Just love me some milk. And I know most people thought that was kind of weird because they were like, who loves milk? But I had to give it up. I give it up. And now I do just almond milk. So some of the things that you have to do, you just have to give up. You have to replace. I started the gym membership, and that's really one of the big things that I'm so excited about, that I started this gym membership, and I'm still there. I started in October of 2019. We're now first quarter 2021. So I'm still there. Your annual exams, you have to go and see your doctor. You cannot think that you're going to be okay. These people, that's what they study as far as making people aware of what's going on with their bodies. It was my doctor who said, you are trending in the wrong direction for your high blood pressure. This is what you need to do. Because down the road, you may feel like you're okay now, but down the road, it could cause, greater problems, especially, as I said, my older siblings was passing away with heart disease, Parkinson's, everything. And I'm like, this is just not good. So what can I do now that will make that change? We want to make sure our hygiene, the things that we are doing with our bodies, that we're making sure that we're making, things are proper, when it comes to your hygiene, making sure that you're doing all the things that you need to do to make sure that, again, you're taking care of your body. Once you have all those things intact, what you have on is also a representative of your body. So make sure that you have on things that are presentable and that they speak well of who you are. So the body, because body, that's the confidence. For me, that was everything. That kind of just did a whole lot of things to make sure that I am walking in the way that I'm supposed to walk. Okay. So the soul is everything. What does the Bible says? What does it profit a man to gain the world and mess around and lose his soul? So we don't want to lose our soul. We want to spend time in nature. That is so wonderful. I spend my outdoors, especially when spring hit. I can't wait, because part of my exercise routine is outdoors. Right now, I don't do much. It's all inside, but spending time with nature is kind of like the air. It's like God just kissing you on the face. I mean, it's just wonderful. I just was able to talk to God, and I always had some type of message that I'm listening to, some type of podcast I'm listening to as I'm walking and I'm talking with God. So spend time in nature, whether it's going hiking, whether it's somewhere in the mountains, whatever, but outside, that's just so critical. A soul journal, devotion. I mean, that is something that too, I started a gratitude journal. If every day you're thanking God and writing down all the things that you're grateful for, what a difference that will make. So make sure that you start the journal, the devotions, and then also go on a date by yourself. Some of the best lunch dates have been with myself. I'm there and I'm really being appreciative of who I am, and I'm just spending quality time with me. And they say, if you don't want to spend time with you, why would you think somebody else would want to spend time with you? So enjoy that time too. I mean, I went to a fine dining restaurant and I was in there by myself eating, enjoying myself. It was for dinner. I never thought I could do that. I just never thought people did that, but I do. I go and I spend that time with myself. Take yoga classes. Those are things that really give you, I did a little bit of yoga, not a lot, but it's refreshing. There's other types of classes, Pilates, maybe that is something that you could do, but just being able to get away and stretch and just feed your soul. Meditate and pray. You cannot go wrong with the meditation, with the prayer. I find myself talking to God, all day, thanking him and asking him too for, just the strength to continue on and give me the things that I need that maybe I don't have in the natural, to give it to me in the spirit. And then also to be an intercessor for someone else. Not only pray for you, but pray for others. Travel. Now, I never travel, but I know there's a group out on Facebook that's all they do is travel. And a lot of people, women, I see that they're on those trips alone. And I would imagine that it has to be probably an exhilarating feeling to just be able to go in some unknown country, land, and you're by yourself. My husband and I, we travel together all the time. So that would be not something I would do, but it's still something that if you are single and you are, in a place where you're at a road and you're trying to decide, what's next and how do you get there, that's a great time to do that. Now, I traveled along, of course, for business, and that also is a time too for that refreshment. But sometimes just a break away, and for a day. I live around Lake Michigan, so to travel to the lake and just marvel at what God has created is just an awesome feeling. So take a long walk. Those are always just enjoyable. And I mean, outside, that's when nature is just one of the best things to really get your mind open and really to start the creation process is what I found. And then offer to help others and to give. I mean, that in and of itself is truly, truly being a blessing to others. All right. So now we go to the closing part of the letter, and that's where we now are going to strategize. The supporting scripture is Proverbs 16:3, one of my favorites as well. Commit your works to the Lord and your plans shall be established. You have to be specific in this area. So I want to come off blood pressure medication. That was what led me to the gym. So now I'm saying I want to come off the blood pressure medication. In the beginning, I was saying I want to be healthy. Now I'm being specific of what I want those things to do. And then this is all under different categories because I'm kind of like, I got different life pursuits, but under that blood pressure medication, I may put also, I want to lose 20 pounds. So in addition, I want to lose 20 pounds. And then I'm going to say that to help get to that, I'm going to work out 30 minutes each day, 30 minutes a day, every day I'm going to work out. Okay. And then to help me too with the weight, I'm going to make sure that all food, excuse me, has been eaten by 6 p.m. So now that could be the total plan, or that could be just parts of it. I didn't want to go into the in-depth plan for me because there are more pieces, but that's the start of it. When I wanted to overcome my fear of public speaking, I decided to go Facebook Live 30 days straight. And I was out there every day for 30 minutes, every day, 30 minutes Facebook Live. And I had my own agenda. I had different subjects that I talked to. I formed a group, a Facebook group, and it was just women. And it was 30 days before my 55th birthday. And I wanted to bring women along with me to maybe they had some life pursuits, some goals that they wanted to achieve. And so we met and we also reviewed every week. They let me know what their goals were. I let them know what my goals were. And we held each other accountable, and we met once a week to make sure we were on track. And so if you were writing a book, would you say, I want to write a chapter every 4 days or a chapter every week? I'm not sure. I've never written a book. I'm not sure how many chapters you want in your book, but you would know that. And then if you are wanting to open or start a business, I will work on my business 1 hour a day. So that's typically if you're working already full-time somewhere and you're not going to just quit and start that job, but you're going to give yourself an hour a day, and then you start breaking it down. What will you do in that hour? Will you start writing up the business plan? Will you go and do your research? All of that should be very specific so you can measure it to make sure it's done. So when you get to the evaluation time, you can know what your progress is, how well you're doing. So you have to stay on top of this. Every week I was doing an exercise and so forth. I was taking pictures of myself and seeing where I am and where I was previously. So this is where you strategize, and what you're going to do is the closer, because it's what's going to seal this whole letter up. All right. So then we go to the signature. And on this one is Matthews 18 and 19. If two of you agree on earth, and that is where if you have someone agreeing with you, that is enough for things to work out and for your prayers to be answered. So we have the signature where this is where we're going to commit. We're going to promise that we have the highest level of commitment and loyalty to fulfill the above life pursuit. And we're going to sign this letter. You know how we sign: respectfully, sincerely, with love. We're going to give that letter a signature. All right. And for everyone where it says, if two of you agree, that means that you have someone that's going to walk with you through this process. And so you're going to have a second letter that you're going to give to your accountability partner. You're going to actually mail it, let them know that this is what you're doing, and you want them to hold you accountable for what you have put in this letter and how you're going to fulfill this life pursuit. Okay, so then the mailing of the letter, we're going to place the letter in the envelope, we're going to seal it with love, and we're going to mail it. And this verse kind of sums up everything. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three things, but the greatest of these is love. Because what did I call this? A love letter to self. This is because I love myself. I want to fulfill everything that God has placed in me. I want to make sure that when I go to my grave, that I'm empty, that I have fulfilled everything. So what better way than to say that you love yourself than to go ahead and make sure all of these life pursuits are fulfilled. So I am healthy and whole. I speak this every day. I'm consistent in what I do to stay healthy. So this is me. I took these pictures just last week, and I'm in the gym every day. I make sure that after 6 p.m. I'm not eating. My diet has changed. Certain things I do not eat. My husband, he's like, I can't believe you're not eating that. No, I know to stay away, from those things. And I still get enjoyment from the things that I do eat, but there's just certain things that I will not eat. Now, do I have an occasion where I may treat myself? Because I think everybody should not be depriving themselves of something that they enjoy. So if it's something that I like to have occasionally, I will, but I will make sure it's always, in moderation. All right. So 55 years old, I can help you reach your life pursuits. As a life coach, allow me to walk with you on your journey. Let's continue the conversation. So thank you for coming to this workshop. There will be additional information following that will allow you to connect with me so I can help you further. There's another workshop that goes along with this that also will help you, because it's a place of being in where I have the address where you say, I am happy. That's also a state of being. And so I have a workshop that deals with that, because you have to be happy, and that happiness is within, and there's nothing outside of you that will fulfill that. So I invite you to join me, and we continue the conversation. All right. So again, thank you for joining me at my Letter 55 workshop. God bless.
Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and I'm going to talk to you today about leveraging professional equity to elevate your career during corporate chaos. Today, we're going to talk about expertise, reputation, and relationships, and how you can use them to propel your career. Now, every time I say something that resonates with you, I want you to type "no excuses" in all caps in the chat. But who am I? I've spoken to women internationally as far as Pretoria, South Africa, about women in leadership. There are leaders everywhere. And by a leader, that definition is someone who has great energy, strength, and power. And the young Karen, I haven't always been a leader. So the young Karen did not feel like a leader. I was determined, strong-willed, and did what I wanted to do regardless of what others said. I was emotional, and I made decisions based on my heart, and emotional decisions are not always rational. And so in talking about corporate chaos, I know a little bit about chaos. You know, everyone has a story, and I am no different. Type yes in the chat if you have a daughter. Type yes in the chat if you struggle with keeping that daughter focused on her education instead of the boys. Type yes in the chat if you were that daughter. That would be me. And so type in the chat "no excuses" if you remember your first love. I remember my first love. My mom tried her best to redirect my attention from this young man. We dated all through high school and all through up until my senior year. And one day he asked me, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I said, I wanted to get married. So we were married. And as a young wife, I was pregnant the next 3 years. Life was wonderful until life was not wonderful. And so when my marriage ended, my children were 3, 2, and 1. Yes, you heard that right. My children were 3, 2, and 1. And so my life was in chaos. And to me, chaos is any distraction that is powerful enough and important enough to sidetrack us from reaching our goals. And so I will also add that chaos can be trying to elevate your career during a pandemic. As leaders, we sometimes have chaos going on at home as well as at work, you know, and so chaos at work may look like a coworker getting a promotion that you felt you deserved. Chaos at home may look something like suspected infidelity. We all experience chaos of some sort. As leaders, we determine how we're going to respond to that chaos. Your response will determine if you will diffuse the situation or cause it to grow and overshadow everything else in your life. Type "no excuses" in the chat if you hear me. Do not let chaos at home hijack your career. I need you to seek help to manage that home situation if you find that chaos is at home. You know, Dr. Willie Jolly has this saying that a setback is a setup for a comeback. And after my divorce, I set out to get myself back on track. I wanted that college degree that I gave up for love. And so I'm going to share with you how I leveraged professional equity to go from a teenage bride to an executive in the C-suite by converting my chaos. So the first thing you have to do is assess your current situation. You have to acknowledge that you're even in a situation. You know, now I was the mother of 3 little people, 3 whole human beings. And so when you are facing chaos, just remember that anyone can be an ally. Everyone is an option. Stay focused and keep your goals in mind. Leaders do not lie to themselves. No, you know you have whatever it takes to propel yourself to the next level. So stop delaying your progress because of pride and because of guilt. You know, you are sometimes ruling people out whose heart has already been touched to assist you. Now, chaos can show up in your professional life as well. You know, it did for me. Professionally, I was told that I would I would succeed my boss. My boss had been working for the organization about 45 years. Was told that I was her successor. We had worked together about 14 years, you know. And so after I was informed that I would be her successor, 2 years went by and still she had not retired. And so once I assessed that, hey, she may not be, she's dragging her feet about retiring, I decided to seek a position elsewhere because I was ready to ascend up to the next position. And the next position would have been a director position. And so I put in some applications externally and I accepted a director position with a company that I was unaware of. So I got the director position and I was overseeing 5 states for HR resorts. So HR resorts in 5 states. And so, but 2 weeks within that new position, they changed my position. And then I found myself, I was overseeing 12 states. 12 states in this new position. Now, I was not happy because they did the old okadoke on me, but now I am responsible for 12 states. And so I devised a plan and said, okay, well, I'm going to stay in this position for a year, and then I'm going to move on into my next position. And so even when things go wrong or are unfair, you have to stay in the game. That company turned out to be just an awful company. And so by the 7th month, I could not take it. And so we parted ways. Imagine me going home to my retired Army husband and saying, I no longer have this 6-figure job. Oh, and by the way, I don't have a job to replace it. So type chaos at home in the chat if you know what I mean. And so I knew I would find another job. I was confident of that. And so I just did not know if I would have a husband after everything subsided. But 4 months later, I was offered the Chief Human Resource Officer job at my alma mater. And so I would not even have been considered for that position had I not took that awful 7-month job. And so there's a lesson there for many of you leaders out there. So I want to talk about, again, the 3 elements of professional equity. So at work, you have to leverage 3 elements. And the first element is expertise. Marsha Blackburn says that everyone has commodity knowledge. Commodity knowledge is what your experience is. And in leadership, you have 3 roles. You either make money, save money, or help the organization achieve their goals. But everything that you do should fall within those 3 buckets. When a business is in trouble, they did not have time to train someone up to take care of the trouble area. And that's why you got to have an area expertise. And you need to be known for your area expertise. And your area expertise is not your title, it is the results that you generate. And so just keep that in mind. Experts do not always perform the work, but generally they know how to get the work done. So just keep that in mind. In addition to your specialty, you also have to have a romance with data. I love data. Data-driven leadership is a requirement now in the corporate environment. Your ability to communicate using data analytics is the new organizational readiness factor. And predictive analytics allow you to remain competitive. This is the measure of an effective leader when you have the ability to drive relevant, meaningful, and quantifiable business outcomes based on data. Being liked will not keep you in a leadership position. So just remember that. Making money, saving money, and achieving organizational goals. Type in the chat if you remember what I said about chaos. What is chaos? There was a time I was the only person in a company who had diversity as a background. And then when I left that company, no one decided to get certified in diversity. And then guess what happened when I left that company? George Floyd happened. And so they had no one who was qualified to handle the sensitive conversations that were needed during that environment, during that time. And that time is still among us right now. And so you need to be an expert in something. You need to be known for something. And when you acquire that specialist knowledge, make sure that you're not so humble in the workplace that you keep it as a secret to you. You want to participate. You want to let individuals know within the workplace of what your desires are professionally. And you just want to participate in meetings as well. If you're invited to a meeting, someone thinks you have some value in that meeting. So be an expert. Second thing you want to do is reimagine your career plan. Type in the chat if you know why I call it a plan. I call it a plan because your career must be strategized, analyzed, and implemented. That's right. We must pivot, along the way. However, we must keep moving. And so there is no reaction without action. Keep that in mind. And try spelling the word reaction without spelling the word action. And I bet you could not do it. Type no excuses in the chat if you know what I'm saying. Our beloved forever President Barack Obama has said that change is never easy, but always possible. And so we must pivot to make adjustments as leaders. And no matter what you've been through, I'm sure you got this. You just have to do the work. Now, not only do you have to be an expert, but let's talk reputation. Reputation is the next element of professional equity. Your reputation distinguishes you from everybody who has education such as yours, who has a similar background such as you, and a similar title. Stop looking around at others when you are equipped with the items that you need to be successful. You have the ability to influence others. To elevate your career, you need a reputation of doing what you say and what you say you will do and when you said you would do it. Type no excuses in the chat if you hear me. You must tell people that what they need to know in addition to what they want to know. Henry Ford once said, you cannot build a reputation on what you would have done. And so keep that in mind. Be a person of your word. Third is execute by any means necessary. I did not say any means necessary. It's every means necessary is really what I mean. Every means necessary is the ability to pivot. And so however chaos you have, whether it's personal or at work, it's never that far away. And so you must have the ability to pivot so that you can keep moving forward. So let's talk about distractions. Sometimes you have to just separate yourself from certain people to elevate your career. There should be some no excuses in the chat just on that, just about separating yourself from people. When I was working on my doctorate, I could not go to every gathering that I was invited to. At first I tried, I would go, and then I would stay up all night long trying to write a paper. And that was crazy. So leaders know how to prioritize. Those events were not that important and, not so important that I had to stay up all night and try to complete them. And so your priority is to elevate your career, regardless of what is going on around you. Les Brown said, accept responsibility for your life and know that you are responsible for changing it. Remember, hard work and persistence are the main ingredients to career elevation. And so social events are distractions, and social events can also be career derailment. The third factor is relationships. Relationships are a major factor in elevating your career. You cannot do it on your own. You cannot do it by yourself, leaders. You need others to value what you bring to the table. You need others to speak on your behalf when you are not in the room. You need others to tell you what is being said or done when you're not in the room. Solid relationships require time, and relationships have to be established even before chaos ensues. And so I am encouraging you to network beyond your bias. I need you to network with people of other genders, network with people of different ages, and network with people of different races. Stephen Covey has this quote saying, trust is the foundational principle that holds all relationships together. And you have to be trustworthy to sustain relationships as well. Professional equity, expertise, reputation, and relationships are what holds your career together during corporate chaos. These are the elements that you can use to leverage your professional career during corporate chaos. In closing, you elevate your career by assessing your chaos, reimagining your career plan by using your reputation, relationship, and expertise, and executing by every means necessary. I have a free gift for you. And if you're interested, just email free gift at prudentglobalbusinesssolutions.com. Type CEO in the subject line, and I'll send you a template to help you in your career. I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. I am known as the career elevation expert for female professionals seeking senior leadership positions. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You got this, leaders. No excuses. Make it happen. If you believe anything that I've said here, type no excuses in the chat. Thank you, BlackCEO, for having me.
Good day, everyone. This is Lord Donovan Hilton, always congratulating you in advance for your continued success. And thank you for joining us today to discuss how you can continue to be the top executive that you are and will continue to become. So I just wanted to show my face real quick because we're going to jump right into the story, the takeaways, and the free gifts. So let's go ahead and jump into this presentation. All right, so it's real simple. Using emotional intelligence to conquer the corporate world. I repeat, using emotional intelligence to conquer the world. Again, this is Lord Donovan Hilton, congratulating you in advance for your continued success. So what we're going to accomplish today is just three simple things. First, I want to share my story, which is my journey of becoming a respected community engagement and business development expert and consultant. While I share my story, I also want to deliver 6 takeaways that you can actually begin to use in your practice of emotional intelligence to conquer the personal world and your life. And what I would like to do as well is make sure you receive a free gift and ensure that you and I are able to stay connected as the both of us continue to grow our brands. So before I tell my story, I just want you to keep in mind 3 key things. Everything that I do within my personal life and really within your personal life and your personal and professional experience, for the most part, we're managing relationships. Always keep that in mind. When we're going through our personal and professional lives, we're building our brands, we are managing relationships. And keep in mind, in my story, as I tell this thing, the value and attitude that I have for myself, the vision that I have in my heart and my mind determines my future. And I've always had my attitude, my values, and vision for myself at the highest expectations well before the age of 21, which is where my story starts. And so this thought process has helped me to become a better decision maker during my journey, especially during the uncomfortable experiences, as you'll see through my story. And so the first takeaway that I can offer is to identify, when we're talking about conquering the corporate world, you want to identify your short-term and long-term goals for your personal life and your career, because this is going to help you as you go through your ups and downs. And so starting my story, keep in mind, if you didn't know, I was homeless. In 2008, I was homeless, that's correct. 21 years old, life was good, Southern California, had my own place. I was working as an admissions representative, hosting basketball tournaments, camps, and clinics in Southern California. Had a girlfriend, she had 3 part-time jobs. She had her own apartment, paying rent, attended the university full-time. Life was great. But unfortunately in 2008, age of 21, my girlfriend, she was 20. The economy slowed down. The city went bankrupt. I was laid off as an admissions representative because I was one of the younger folks and I didn't have a mortgage nor a family. So, you know, you got to make those tough decisions. And I was one of the first ones to be laid off in my department. And I was getting more and more parents calling me saying I can no longer have my son or daughter in your basketball program. And soon I found myself evicted from my home And through the grace, my girlfriend allowed me to move in with her. Now, when I got settled in, she was getting laid off from her jobs back to back to back. Keep in mind, the economy really slowed down. I didn't even know anything about the economy. I was just going to school, hustling, and making money. She was going to school. Didn't know anything about the economy. You know, I didn't know that stuff slowed down. So she was evicted from her job, laid off from her jobs, eventually became evicted from her apartment. Then both of our cars broke down and we found ourselves catching the bus. And we're like, what is going on? You know, we've never had any challenges in life. We've always tried to help and be of servitude. And now all of a sudden we're evicted from our places. Our cars are broken down. We're catching the bus and we're bouncing around from motel to motel and trying to find a place within, you know, between our families that are nice enough to open their homes and keep them. And so eventually my girlfriend's mom and sister found out about the hardships. They were talking to, you know, my girlfriend and said, hey, why don't you guys come to Nashville? And so it was something that we've never considered, coming from Southern California with the beach, the Lakers, all that good stuff. But again, we found ourselves in a tough spot. She hadn't seen her family, her mom and her sister in over 15 years. She was raised by her dad. But it got to a point where we had $150 to our name. And so we decided to go ahead and make that move. So at 21 years of age, myself, my girlfriend being 20, we took our $150, went to the casino, and we made $600 from the craps table. And fun fact, I hadn't made any money from the casino since. And so we bought airplane tickets that night. We're rushing to the airport. We're running late, and we get to the check-in. We're showing our tickets. They're saying it's going to be an additional $200. I said, no, ma'am, I already paid my ticket. Here's my receipt. She said, oh, no, you have these bags with you. We have this thing called luggage fees. I didn't know anything about it.